You found yourself on another edition of Let 'Em Know Kings United, and on today's episode, the Cleveland Cavaliers, Sacramento Kings, and Chicago Bulls stood on business as the Sacramento Kings get a big-time win over Phoenix. De'Aaron Fox is him. He needs to be in the MVP conversation. The Bulls win 4 straight in the first time in over a year, and the Cleveland Cavaliers establish Cleveland culture as they steal a win over the Miami Heat. We got 3 victories to break down. It is going to be very fun coming up right here on Let 'Em Know Kings United. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for the post-game reaction podcast of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Sacramento Kings, and the Chicago Bulls. This is Let 'Em Know Kings United. Let 'em know, nation, you already know what time it is. Welcome to another edition of Let 'em Know Kings United, your Chicago Bulls, Sacramento Kings, and Cleveland Cavaliers post-game reaction podcast. And I am your host, Skylar Weisberg. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning into today's show. I am going to get a show out for you guys today before the NBA in-season tournament championship between the Indiana Pacers and the LA Lakers. And coming up later on today's show, I'm going to give you my bold prediction on who I think is going to win the inaugural NBA Cup, even though I do not like how tonight's Indiana Pacers and LA Lakers game doesn't count for anything. I mean, if I was the NBA, I would at least count that game towards the regular season, but they make the rules. They make the NBA in-season tournament, which is an absolute smashing success, by the way. So I'm not going to argue with it. I just hope it's going to be a very entertaining game. But before we get there, I would like to remind you all that you can find Let 'Em Know Kings United, which is 100% completely free and available on Amazon Music, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Radio Public, Pandora, and wherever else you want to listen to this great show. Give the show a follow on those platforms. If you can, please turn on your notifications so you know about the next episode. Please rate, spread the word out to your friends, and give Let 'Em Know Kings United a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. It is a great way to support the podcast, and I appreciate every single one of you for tuning in. For the Cavaliers, Bulls, and Kings this past Friday night, I know it was the start of the weekend, but they stood on business as the Cleveland Cavaliers, Chicago Bulls, and the Sacramento Kings got 3 good, quality, and big-time wins. I want to start with the Cleveland Cavaliers, who beat the Miami Heat 111-99 using a pair of 15-0 runs, and the fact that Donovan Mitchell scored 27 points on the night. He also had 13 rebounds, but Darius Garland shook off early foul trouble. He was with 4 personal fouls, early in the first half. I want to give credit to the Miami Heat, even though they are my biggest rivals right now. I want to give credit to the Miami Heat because I loved the game plan that they were coming with. They wanted to come in aggressive on Darius Garland and take him out of the game. Well, they did their job somewhat, taking Darius Garland out of the game, even though he did pretty solid and scored 18 points on the night. You didn't take the spider out of the game, and Donovan Mitchell single-handedly cooked the Miami Heat last night. George Niang also chipped in with 13 points, and the former Miami Heat man, Max Strus, was getting it loose, scoring 11 points in his first road game against his former team. The Cavaliers are now 7-3 on the road this season, tied for the best mark in the NBA with 2 teams. The Oklahoma City Thunder, who are absolutely for real, coming off an overtime win against Golden State, which was an absolute absolute thriller. By the way, it's always an entertaining thriller when the Warriors and the Thunder go at it. And the Minnesota Timberwolves, who beat a lifeless Memphis Grizzlies team who are now 17-4. I'm sorry, Minnesota Timberwolves fans, but that is fake stats. I already know damn well that Minnesota is not that talented, not as talented as the Cleveland Cavaliers, but that's beside the point. JB Bickerstaff said about the win, we keep talking about the same thing. Every night we can control whether or not we're the best team on the floor. Are we the most competitive? Are we the most selfless? And when guys do that, the talent rises. The Cavs are 13-3 this year when holding teams under 120 points. When teams score at least 120, however, the Cavs this year are 0-6. So the Cavaliers defense stepped up big time, especially from the second quarter on, especially the third quarter, the Cleveland Cavaliers did an outstanding job, especially on the defensive end. Miami scored 15 consecutive points early on the way building to a 16-point lead, and the Cavaliers had two 15-0 stretches later in the game. Mitchell had the last bucket to the first half to give Cleveland a 53-52 lead at the halftime break, and then the Cavs got the first 13 points of the third quarter, with Mitchell scoring 11 of those to put his team on top for good. When it comes to that third quarter, Donovan Mitchell said that third quarter kind of set the tone. We got to keep doing this. They came out in the second half. They set the tone. They controlled the pace, and they just outworked Miami the entire second half. It was a tale of two halves, honestly. While Miami did a really good job establishing their identity in the first half, the Cavaliers did a really good job of establishing their identity in the second half and made a really big statement, especially in the third quarter. And now the Heat, who are 12-10 on the year, has lost 4 games this season after leading by at least 16 points. It was the biggest deficit Cleveland has successfully overcame this point of the season. Eric Spoelstra said about the Heat, I thought there was some decent things defensively throughout the course of the game, but not even scoring 100 points. Granted, they're a good defense. That's not going to get it done. And Miami was completely shorthanded. They're without Bam Adebayo with a hip injury, Hayward Highsmith with a back injury, Tyler Hero an ankle injury. Adebayo has missed 5 of Miami's last 8 games. Hero has missed 14 straight with a sprain, and Hayward has basically missed 3 consecutive games. He sat out Miami's last 2 in the last 45 minutes of Monday's loss to the Indiana Pacers. But the Cavaliers were shorthanded as well. They were without Evan Mobley, who was held out with left knee soreness. It was Mobley's first game missed this season and only the 4th he's missed in Cleveland's last 111 games, including the playoffs. So I guess you could say Evan Mobley is more of an Iron Man than the entire roster of the Miami Heat. But I'm gonna calm it down. At the end of the day, Cleveland had to play the Miami Heat shorthanded or not, and at the end of the day, they did what they were supposed to do, especially in that third quarter. I felt that the third quarter was absolutely outstanding for Cleveland. The defense turned up the energy, and the offense followed suit. It was a complete second half for the Cleveland Cavaliers, not compared to the first half, while Miami took complete control of the first half. I gotta be honest with you, when they outscored the Cleveland Cavaliers 25-17 in the first quarter, the Cavaliers outscored Miami 36-27 in the second quarter and 35-23 in the third to take the lead back for Cleveland, and held on to that lead for good. They shot 46% from the field and 36% from 3. Cleveland did, you can argue, 37% from 3-point range. Miami shot 43% from the field and 35% from 3. The free throw percentage, both teams struggled at the foul line, but I think Cleveland had a better advantage as far as attempts. But the free throw percentage were 66 to 65% in favor of the Miami Heat. The rebounds were the big story of the game, 51-37 in favor of Cleveland, 12 of those on the offensive end. The assist numbers, 23-21 in favor of Miami. The steals were 13-5 in favor of Cleveland. The blocks were 5-2 in favor of Miami. The turnovers 18 for Miami, allowing 22 points, 13 turnovers for Cleveland, allowing 12. The fast break points were 23-11 in favor of Cleveland. The points of the paint was even at 42, but the rebounding and the steals and the transition points were a big story in this game, and Cleveland just turned up the energy in the second half that Miami couldn't really answer. As far as who stood out for Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell stood out in a really big way. 27 points, 13 big boards for Donovan Mitchell. He was a plus-minus out of a plus 15 with 6 assists and a steal on the night. Darius Garland, despite 4 fouls, he had a plus 20 on the plus-minus. He finished with 18 points with 6 assists and grabbing a couple of boards. He was 6 for 11 from the field, 5 of 7 from three-point range. Dean Wade got the start in place of Evan Mobley, and he did solid. 5 points, 6 rebounds, 3 steals, plus minus a plus 23. Not bad. Max Strus against his former team, 11 points. He was 2 for 11 from three-point range, which I did not like. However, he grabbed 7 rebounds, and he had a steal on the night. Craig Porter Jr. stepped up off the bench when Darius Garland got 4 fouls, and he held it down with 8 points, 3 rebounds, and he grabbed 2 steals. George Niang is starting to find his rhythm in Cleveland. He finished with 13 points with 3 rebounds and 2 assists on the night. Jared Allen, I can't forget about him. He finished with 6 points and 9 rebounds on the night. As far as the Miami Heat, Kyle Lowry, he's a Cleveland killer at this point. He killed Cleveland at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, and now he's killing Cleveland in Miami. I don't understand why this man has to hurt the Cleveland Cavaliers. If Kevin Love hurt the Cleveland Cavaliers all night, I would understand that. But Kyle Lowry, my goodness, he finished with 17 points, 3 of 9 from three-point range, 5 assists, and 2 rebounds. Kevin Love, the former Cavalier, former longtime Cleveland Cavalier, finished with 14 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists. He was 4 for 8 from three-point range. Jaquez Jr. is a stud. He finished with 14 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. Richardson finished with 17, tying with Kyle Lowry with the lead in scoring off the bench with 2 assists. Jimmy Butler, 16 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists on the night. And I love the fact that we've held the Duncan Robinson to only 1 point. 0 for 6 from three-point range. We did a really good job of containing him. We didn't do a really good job of containing Kevin Love against his former team. But at the end of the day, this was just a really good quality win for the Cleveland Cavaliers. They are in the middle of a really tough stretch because they have a back-to-back coming up against the number 3 defense in the NBA, the Orlando Magic, which they've held to 111 points last time, but they're really good at their home floor. And then they got a back-to-back in Boston Tuesday and Thursday against the best team in the NBA. So if this was a good test to see where the Cleveland Cavaliers are at, I think we passed this test with flying colors. 13-9, 7-3 on the road. We are finding our stride. Let's keep it going against Orlando on Monday night. Coming up next, for the first time since last year, the Chicago Bulls have won not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 straight games. They did it against the San Antonio Spurs, but at the end of the day, you got to play teams that are on their schedule, and the Bulls are going streaking. I'm going to tell you about this win when we come back on Let 'Em Know Kings United. We're back on Let 'Em Know Kings United, and stop me if you heard this phrase before. Bulls win. I cannot even believe what is happening to the Chicago Bulls right now. We were one of the worst teams in the NBA not too long ago. Now we won 4 straight and we're 9-14. Like, how did this happen? How did this happen? Of course, we all know what happened. Zach LaVine is the living up hell out of the city of Chicago. But like, what? What? We beat Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs 121-112. Now, before I even get into it, let me just say Victor Wembanyama is an absolute freaking cheat code. 21 points, 20 rebounds. I mean, I was watching this game and I was saying to myself, this is just completely unfair. It's not only unfair to his own team, the San Antonio Spurs, but it's unfair to the Chicago Bulls to a certain extent, because how could a guy who's 7'4", the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft, has a wingspan that is like so beyond freaking insane, drop like 21 points and 20 rebounds? Unfair! It's just unfair. And I don't blame the Chicago Bulls for feeling like it's unfair. I mean, if you match up against Victor Wembanyama, it's not going to be fair. At 19 years old, he is the youngest player in NBA history to have 20 points and 20 rebounds in a game. Insane. It's just absolutely insane. He's not winning Rookie of the Year, though. I think Chet Holmgren clears Victor Wembanyama by a country mile based on his stats right now. But it is absolutely insane to me. It is absolutely insane that with this young of an age, Victor Wembanyama brings up that kind of numbers. Like, are you serious? Are you freaking serious? Unfortunately, the Spurs are suffering another historic skid, even as the number 1 pick, Victor Wembanyama, continues to shine. Having played for the San Antonio Spurs under Greg Popovich, former San Antonio Spur and current Chicago Bull, DeMar DeRozan knows the Spurs should eventually okay. DeMar DeRozan said about San Antonio, they've got everything else. Experience really becomes a critical thing late in the game and in certain key moments throughout the game. That goes a long way for a young team like that. They're going to have it. They're going to get it. The experience that they're gaining, I know it sucks for them right now losing, but when you gain with that, you gain experience and understanding of what it takes to be winners and what it takes to close out games. By the way, the San Antonio Spurs and the Detroit Pistons don't really know how to finish games. You can say the same thing with Washington. Now, the difference is the San Antonio Spurs and the Detroit Pistons have quality head coaches. Monty Williams for Detroit, Greg Popovich for San Antonio. Wes Unseld Jr., the head coach of the Washington Wizards, he might as well get fired. He might as well get fired right now, but it's not about Washington, San Antonio, or Detroit. It is about the Chicago Bulls, who again played a really good second half. That first half, I'm not even going to lie to you, San Antonio deserves all the credit. Kind of like Cleveland and Miami, it was a tale of two halves. The first half, all advantage to San Antonio, I'm not going to lie, but the second half, the Bulls turned up their energy. They outscored 35-20 the Spurs in the third and 34-29 at the end of the fourth to beat San Antonio for good. I mean, Nikola Vucevic added 21 points and 16 rebounds for the Bulls. DeRozan had 20 points and 10 rebounds, but let's be honest here, DeMar DeRozan did not do well this game as far as shooting-wise. It was probably the worst game shooting-wise that DeMar DeRozan has played so far this season. But he made impact plays when he needed to the most. He got a clutch and one to seal the game in the fourth quarter for Chicago. When he needed it, when the Bulls needed it the most, DeMar DeRozan delivers. And Patrick Williams, I am loving the living hell out of this kid. He finished with 20 points, and Torrey Craig had a career-high 16 points to help the Bulls win their fourth straight and snap a 7-game losing streak away from the United Center. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I now am starting to think that the Chicago Bulls got rid of the problem that's been plaguing them over the last couple of weeks. And of course, you know what I'm talking about. Mr. Flight 8, Mr. Zach LaVine, I think you need to get the living hell out of Chicago, my boy. Clearly, the Bulls don't even need you to be better. The Bulls are looking better these last 4 victories than there ever was with Zach LaVine on the floor. Unfortunately, though, we lost Alex Caruso. He went out of this game late in the second half due to an ankle injury. I hope the injury is not serious, but knowing how tough Alex Caruso is, he'll probably have an ice pack getting ready for the next game. But my concern about him, speaking of AC, is with his injury history that's been long documented, I don't know how much big of an impact Alex Caruso could potentially bring going forward the rest of the year. But you know what? We're still going to see how it plays out. And by the way, this is only the second victory on the road this season for the Chicago Bulls. Yeah, not good. Not good. But it's hard to win on the road with it. It's hard to win on the road in the NBA, especially with how loud the Frostbank Center in San Antonio is. It was probably a loud atmosphere for a San Antonio team that hasn't been relevant since Kawhi Leonard left. Okay? Since Kawhi Leonard left San Antonio, the Spurs have been going downhill. But Chicago, you had to do what you needed to do. You turned up your energy in the second half. Torrey Craig balled out. Vucevic balled out. Patrick Williams continued to be as aggressive as hell. DeMar DeRozan, he gave you 20 points even though he didn't have his best shooting night. And Kobe freaking White. Can somebody please put some respect on the name of Kobe White? He finished with 24 points and the Bulls overcame Wembanyama's big night to hand the Spurs the franchise record-tying 16th straight loss. It is not ugly like the 19 straight that the Detroit Pistons have right now, but it's getting there. It's getting to the point where the Wizards, Spurs, and Pistons are now competing for who is the worst team in the NBA, because certainly Chicago is out of the question. Chicago is out of the picture for now. Yes, we're 4th in the standings with a record of 9-14, but we are better. We are better now, we are better today than what we were in the beginning of the season. Keldon Johnson had 20 points for the San Antonio Spurs. Trey Jones also at a season high of 18, which has not won since November 2nd against Phoenix. It is a long, tough road for the San Antonio Spurs right now. Popovich said, well, we've been here before. They competed their butts off. A lot of good things, but 4 quarters, people started to up their defense, and we have trouble scoring. So we just didn't keep it up in scoring of that regard. Victor Wembanyama had 10 points and 11 rebounds in the first half for his 10th double-double of the season and first in the first half. And you know what? Nikola Vucevic said something this. He said, it's a little bit unfair how he rebounds with us around him. There was some rebounds where I was like, there was nothing I could do. Granted, I'm not a high jumper or anything, but still. But I mean, damn. I agree, Vooch. I agree with that. With a guy that tall, 7'4", with a big-ass wingspan that I never thought it would existed. I mean, there's some rebounds where you just gotta give it to the guy. I mean, the Spurs clearly might have won the rebounding battle in this game. I gotta check the stats, but if the Spurs clearly won the rebounding battle, it's probably mostly because of Victor Wembanyama. DeMar DeRozan said about him, man, listen, I didn't know where he was coming from. Even if it wasn't by me, he's going to be a scary defender just affecting people's shots down there. Even if he doesn't get a hand on him, just the way he affects everybody coming down there. Coming out of nowhere. The first layup, I didn't know where he came from, and he blocked it. You definitely have to be aware with Victor Wembanyama. I think when the Spurs or the Bulls meet up again at the United Center, I believe it is December 21st. A couple of days from now, I think Chicago will definitely be ready for Victor Wembanyama now that they know who now that they know what he's capable of. And hey, if you are Cleveland, you better be prepared for him right now, because for the most part, Sacramento did a really good job of containing him. He got his stats, but the Kings did a good job for the most part of containing him. And about the loss, Jones said, it's been a combination of things. I think it's something that's consistent tonight. Offensive boards throughout the game, but obviously in the third quarter as well. We stopped hitting shots as well, and they just picked up their physicality and ended up getting to the free throw line as well. As the game went on, the Chicago Bulls had a little bit of an edge. They had a little bit of advantage, and they upped their physicality in the course of the game. And at that second half, the Bulls just took control, and they got their fourth straight win, and I'm really happy and I'm really proud of the Chicago Bulls, who again are 4-0 without the cancer Zach LaVine. 46% for the field for the Bulls, 47% for the San Antonio Spurs. The three-point percentage, 46% for Chicago, 40% for San Antonio. The free throw percentage, 58% for the free throw line for the Chicago Bulls, 85% for the San Antonio Spurs of 17-20. That 58% is not going to fly with me. I think the Chicago Bulls need to work on their foul line shooting. But at the end of the day, we got to win, so I'm not going to be mad if a win comes out of it. But I am really proud of this. 56 rebounds compared to 44. 56 rebounds for the Bulls, 44%, 44 rebounds for the San Antonio Spurs, 24 of them came on the offensive end. Outstanding. The assist numbers 35-25 and 35-27 in favor of San Antonio. The steals were 9-4 in favor of Chicago. The blocks were 9-2, mostly because of Victor Wembanyama, so I'm not going to blame Chicago for losing that battle. They did a really good job of taking care of the basketball. They only had 8 turnovers the Bulls had compared to 13 of them for the San Antonio Spurs. The points in the paint were 54 to 44, a 10-point edge for Chicago, and the fast break points were 15-13 in favor of the Chicago Bulls. For the Bulls, who stood out to this game, put some respect on Kobe freaking White. He finished with 24 points. He was 5 for 7 from three-point range with 6 assists and 4 rebounds. Torrey Craig came off the bench, and he made a spectacular impact with 16 points, his career high. He also finished with 8 rebounds and 2 steals on the night. Patrick Williams and DeMar DeRozan both finished with 20 points apiece. Patrick Williams finished 2 for 3 from three-point range with 6 rebounds, 3 assists. DeMar finished with 10 assists and 6 rebounds. Nikola Vucevic, a double-double for him, 21 points and 16 rebounds in 36 minutes, but he only took 9 shots. You got to step up your shot game, Vucevic. You got to step it up. And DeMar, I will say this, he was 7-24 from the field. Not his best shooting night by any stretch of imagination. But when you allow yourself to get 20 points off a bad shooting night, that's a win in my book. Victor Wembanyama, there's nothing this is unreal. 21 points, 20 rebounds. He also had an assist, 4 blocks, 4 assists, 4 blocks, and a steal. Like, are you kidding me? Johnson finished with 20 points, 5 assists, and 2 rebounds. Collins came off the bench with 12 points and 10 rebounds with 5 assists and a steal on the night. But at the end of the day, the Bulls just turned it up in the second half and ended up getting a win. San Antonio is a young team. They are competing their butts off, but they need to learn how to win, and they're not there yet right now. And coming up next on Let Them Know Kings United, we're going to talk about one more win, and that is the Sacramento Kings getting the win over the Phoenix Suns. They turned up in the fourth quarter, and more specifically, the MVP conversation needs to start and end with De'Aaron Fox. Why is that? I'm going to tell you about it when we come back on Let Them Know Kings United. Final segment here on Let 'Em Know Kings United, and the Sacramento Kings steamrolled into Phoenix and got over their elimination of the NBA in-season tournament by taking care of the Phoenix Suns by a final score of 114 to 106, and clearly, the star of the game was no other than Mr. Fourth Quarter, Fox Force 5, first name De'Aaron, last name him, MVP conversation worthy De'Aaron Fox, who scored 34 points overall, but scored 23 in the fourth quarter. When De'Aaron Fox gets going, especially in the fourth quarter, it's a wrap. It's a wrap for y'all. It's a wrap for Phoenix. It's a wrap for the LA Lakers. It's a wrap for the Golden State Warriors. Hell, it's probably a wrap for the San Antonio Spurs if all I care. It's a wrap for the majority of the NBA when De'Aaron Fox is steamrolling, especially late in the fourth quarter. De'Aaron Fox said this: shots going in. It's really simple as that. Try to stay aggressive. Teams were getting me open with screens and getting matchups that we like. It all just came together in the fourth quarter for myself. De'Aaron Fox is a 7-year point guard, ladies and gentlemen. He played all 7 years with the Sacramento Kings. Shot 8 of 13 in the fourth quarter, including all 4 of his three-point tries. The 2022 All-Star is averaging 30.5 points per game, which is easily a career high. The Kings won their third straight game in the series, while Devin Booker led the Suns in scoring with 28 points of 10 of 14 shooting. He added 7 rebounds and 7 assists, but it wasn't enough because the Suns were without Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal, who led 59-50 at the half after a 13-3 run to end the second quarter. But the Kings flipped the advantage in a hurry, taking an 83-71 lead into the fourth quarter. Phoenix scored only just 12 points in the third quarter. Like, only 12 points. You mean to tell me that you were supposed to be one of the scariest teams in the Western Conference, Phoenix? And you score 12 points? What the hell are you doing? I think LeBron and the Lakers definitely broke y'all. Because Devin Booker, you are nothing but trash. You are bottom of the barrel trash if your team only scores 12 points in the third quarter. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I said it. And Mike Brown and the Sacramento Kings coaching staff, they deserve a lot of credit here. A ton of credit, actually. They were doing a really good job of changing up the game plan, making some defensive adjustments in games, catching the Phoenix Suns off guard with their screening action offensively, and forcing the Phoenix Suns defense to read and react their coverage. And their horns action, I mean, name me one team in the NBA that could stop the Sacramento Kings horns action. Here's an answer for you. Nobody. De'Aaron Fox said, really, we were just throwing junk defenses at them. Stuff that we really hadn't even worked on. There are kinds of things that you have to be able to do on the fly, especially when someone like Devin Booker gets going. And Frank Vogel, who is one of the worst head coaches in the history of the NBA. No wonder why he got fired so many times. He said, that's when they made their move. Credit their coaching staff. They did a good job of mixing coverages throughout the game as the Kings made some adjustments in the second half. And the starters as a whole did not really do well in this game. Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, clearly the two exceptions. But the bench players came up huge. Keon Ellis came up huge. Malik Monk, you already know what he does. And Sasha Vezenkov. This dude owned the entirety of the Phoenix Suns, who, by the way, are 5-6 at home. And Eric Gordon only scored like 19 points in this game, while Nurkic added 15 points and 9 rebounds, and he got himself a flagrant foul, penalty one, when he fouled Aaron Fox on a three-point attempt because Nurkic didn't give space for Fox to land after the three-point shot. You cannot do that, Jusuf Nurkic. You gotta give, missed the fourth quarter, you gotta give the fourth quarter killer some space when he lands. He didn't do that. That's why the Phoenix Suns in part lost this game. Eric Gordon said, we're not there yet. We're going to get there. We just got to continue grinding. Lots of injuries, lots of things happening, but we will be fine. Our efforts there. I don't believe you, Eric Gordon. I don't believe you at all. Your effort has been trash. Your effort has been ass. Your effort was pathetic and inexcusable. And credit to the Sacramento Kings. They handled their business late in the second half. It was a tale of two halves for all three games, but Sacramento did a really good job of just taking care of business. De'Aaron Fox was doing what he always does. Domantas Sabonis owns Phoenix. Sasha Vezenkov played a really good game, and the bench unit really stepped up. I'm really questioning Harrison Barnes, though. I think Keegan Murray is doing better than Harrison Barnes right now. I still think that Harrison Barnes needs to be traded to get a better wing guy, but when Sacramento wins, I'm not going to complain. 45% shooting for the Sacramento Kings, 48% for the Phoenix Suns. For three, it was pretty even. The free throw percentage, Sacramento, outstanding. 80% for the foul line compared to 65 for the Phoenix Suns. The rebounds, 50-40 in favor of Sacramento, 15 of them on the offensive glass. The assists were 26-25 in favor of Phoenix. The steals, 8-7 in favor of Phoenix. There were no blocks by the Sacramento Kings tonight, which I am really surprised about. The turnovers, 13 turnovers for Sacramento Kings, 11 points. 11 turnovers for the Phoenix Suns. The points of the paint, 56-48 in favor of Phoenix, but the fast break points, 16-13 in favor of the Sacramento Kings, which is a really big stat for them because they like to get the ball out in transition. Domantas Sabonis finished with 15 points, 17 rebounds, and 5 assists on the night. De'Aaron Fox, 34 points, 7 assists, 4 rebounds, including 23 of those in the third quarter. Keegan Murray finished with 13 points, 4 rebounds, and an assist. Sasha Vezenkov off the bench. He made a big impact, y'all. 14 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. Malik Monk, you already know what he does. 13 points, 6 assists, and 2 rebounds off the bench. Keon Ellis. This guy really stood out. For Sacramento. 10 points, 2 rebounds. He got the defensive player of the game crown. Trey Lyles, 5 points and 6 rebounds and 2 assists as far as the Phoenix Suns. Devin Booker led Phoenix in scoring, 28 with 7 rebounds and 7 assists. Eric Gordon, 19, 3 assists and 2 steals. Jusuf Nurkic, 15 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists and a steal. And that was pretty much it. That was pretty much it for the Phoenix Suns. Only 3 players came to play while Sacramento played a complete team game in the second half while De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis were absolutely cooking. And now the Sacramento Kings can feel really good about themselves getting a in-season tournament hangover win before going back to Sacramento on Monday to play a very scrappy and very talented Brooklyn team in the Golden One Center. I'm excited to watch a matchup between 2 up-and-coming teams. That's going to do it for today's edition of Let 'Em Know Kings United. You can find this show on Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Radio Public, Pandora, and wherever else you want to listen to the show. Give the show a follow on those platforms. Turn on your notifications so you know about the next episode. Please rate, spread the word out to your friends. Give Let 'Em Know Kings United a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. Thank you for tuning in as always. I am your host, Skylar Weisberg, and I will see you right back here for another episode of Let 'Em Know Kings United.